My name is Emily West Pollock, and I am with Ground Up Insurance. And this is my good friend,
Amy Luganville, and I'm with Collier Insurance Group.
Very good. And we like to get on and talk about topics that are just irking us and being our regular sassy selves. So our topic for today, since I got to pick, is going to be cyber policies. Other than workers' comp, we're seeing that as a big sort of buzzword of getting cyber policies. Where are you at cyber policies, and how do you share those with your customers that you come in contact, especially in the small business world?
I think it's important, but it's one of those topics that I think business owners just think is a money grab. They have the "it's never going to happen to me" syndrome. And so even though it's a very real risk, and it's very grounded in a ton of examples online of where small companies are constantly hacked, their information has been stolen. It has been shown time and time again, all the businesses just still think, well, I'm too small. Like, I'm not important enough for hackers or somebody to steal from. They're going to go after the big fish, versus going after me. So it's a difficult thing to try to broach, even though I do think it's important.
Very good. And I strongly believe that too. I think when we look at the amount of businesses, they said like 43% of major cyber uh, claims are from small businesses because you're out there and unaware. I know, I will tell you, they have all ways to get into you. I actually I was in Dallas and I got one of those toll roads to let me know that I needed to pay my toll. And I honestly did need to pay my toll. But I got this like random text message. And of course I'm going, there's no way they could randomly know like the car's in Jim's name. Like our phone number is not on file for anyone. So it makes no sense that I would get some random text message. But the way that it came in, I could have completely thought that that was something that was legit and I wanted to get on there. They placed that sense of urgency that if I didn't get it paid out now, blah, the police were coming to get me. Although that's one of those telltale signs, right? The police are always on their way and you have to
Yeah.
stop them with that gift card purchase. I'm just kidding. Anyway, but so it's a big deal. And cyber policies, at least cyber protection, has been on policies for a long time. On general liability, you have data loss. Now, the problem with that, and it's a tiny add-on, sometimes you pay a little bit for this data loss, but it doesn't include some of the things that are big issues nowadays, which are like ransomware, regulatory fines, first party loss to get your own data, and business interruption. And think about it. If you paid for business interruption, but found because you had a data loss because you accidentally opened that email that you weren't supposed to open, it's not covered.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as kind of the Band-Aid for cybersecurity. Now, if you wanted to get a little more savvy, and instead of trying to use water guns against those cyber folks, you could go for the cyber endorsement. Are you familiar with any of the cyber endorsements? Have you encountered any of those when you're doing like BOPs or GLs?
I've seen a couple. I kind of have mixed feelings about them. I kind of feel like if this is all of what the business owner is going to let me do, then it's better than nothing. but I always have like a warning label. This is not going to solve all of your cyber problems. If you have a problem, this is gonna like give you a Band-Aid to cover a gaping wound. And you're going to be responsible for trying to figure out the rest of it. So I'm not a huge fan. I think they're very, well, for a reason, lacking. You know, the risk is definitely real. So they don't really have a whole lot of teeth and means of covering a business owner's behind.
Exactly. And a lot of times it won't cover some of the negotiation and payment support you might need if you have to come out and pay $150 to $250 for everyone's personal information that came from you, even if it's not used.
Well, the fines can be even bigger, especially if like you're in a medical field, because now you've got HIPAA fines. And
oh yeah,
your behind's flapping in the wind at this point, and it's not fun. And I actually have an example. Okay. I have mad passion for trying to help insure dentist offices, mainly because it was the way to, you know, get over my fear of dentists. So if I like overexposed myself, maybe it would be better every time I had to go personally. So I was working with a dentist. I was quoting them. I thought I
so
had them.
trauma insuring, is that what we're doing, Amy, now?
Hey, if I'm doing some self work while I insure people, I should get gold stars for this. Um, so I'd been working with them for a while on their quotes, and I really thought I had them. I had them covered completely. I gave them their presentation, and then the wife came in of the dentist and nixed it all. She said, "Nope, we're going to stay where we're at. We're not making any changes. We don't need any of that extra fluff. That's just an expense." And literally 6 months after the renewal that they stayed, they got hit. Um, some because they were giving clients tablets to fill out their information, and somebody decided to put malware on one of the tablets and stole every bit of medical payments, everything. They got everything. And all their clients, and they weren't a tiny, tiny dentist, but they were a decent sized one. So they had several hundred patients that their information was gone. And he called me asking, what does he need to do? And I was like, uh, you're going to be responsible for that. You don't have the coverage. I've seen your current policy. You said you weren't making a change, that it was fluff, that you didn't need it. So I would be contacting all those regulatory agencies and working with them as to how you can pay those fines, because you're on the hook. So
That is frightening. So our third option on this, though, is the standalone cyber policies.
yeah.
And those have been getting really good. There's even some mitigation efforts that you can actually do that'll bring the price down if you're willing to put in the work, where it covers first and third party losses. So it covers what happens to you and the people that are affected by it. It does ransomware negotiation and payment. So like you just call them and they take care of everything. It takes care of the regulatory fines and penalties. And like you were saying, Amy, those are huge. Business interruption. So if you couldn't do business because, you know, all your information was stuck, it gave you a way to keep getting your income coming in so you didn't go out of business. It also took care of social engineering, phishing, and wire transfer fraud. And I didn't realize how relevant that was. Like I hear a lot about it in the title, you know, business, but I had never realized how big it was for small businesses because how quickly you can get people's routing number and account number, that you're keeping so that you can do automatic payments. It also gives you a data breach response team that does legal and PR, so that it'll go out there and it'll save your reputation. It does forensics and recovery, and sadly enough, kind of scary, they know exactly who is the one that caused it. They can get down to who actually opened that up. And it also protects you against employees or vendors, because, Amy, we have lots of people that we work with that we depend on being on the up and up. Like, I don't know if you do agency bill, and that's when we as agencies take the payment. I always do direct bill. I always want to go straight through that, the person who is writing the policy, the carrier. I don't want to be the middleman in that. And so it's really good to have someone, if they're not on the up and up, to have someone to protect those relationships too.
Yeah.
But there's some scary things coming out. I don't know if you've seen like where they can, the deep fakes, where they can steal your name, your face. Like, we could be doing deep fake right now in a podcast and no one would even know. So there's a lot of things that are covered in that, but it may seem like it's too much for someone. So tell me, what do you think you would need to store to decide to get into one of those standalone policies, to figure out where your protection needs to be?
So I actually sat down with a cybersecurity expert a couple of months ago, and he literally like builds the programs and all of that. So I had him walk me through like, how is it happening for a small business? Like, where are they at risk? And what he does is he almost can work really well with what we do, because we can give him like the dentist office, and we can give him the name of that business, where they're at, how many people they're serving, and he can build out their risk in a presentation.
Oh, amazing.
And I like that they can make it specific to that person, because I think when you're presenting to a small business owner, you've got to break through that it's never going to happen to me. Like, and you hear it a lot, no matter what you're trying to talk to them about, like, I'm never going to get in that big old car accident.
And like you said before, I'm too small. No
Yes.
one's going to come after me.
Yeah. And so I like building examples, like, especially local, when I can go, 4 months ago here in town, this business had a data breach, and that data breach cost them approximately X number of dollars. And so you can make it relatable, you can make it tangible and specific to what they do and where they do their business. Because I think without those connections, they're just not going to see the risk, because they see on the news it's, Wells Fargo, Chase, they see all these huge companies with those data breaches. But I'm sorry, CNN isn't covering Jim Bob's dental practice in Granbury, Texas. He's covering, the huge mega corporations. So I don't know. I know you're really good at speaking to businesses. Do you have like a game plan in your brain that you're thinking how you're going to do this?
So one of the things I like to do is I like to ask them what kind of information they keep. And like you said, if there's health information, if you're keeping social security numbers, date of birth, driver's license, all those key information that would fall under the, privacy of what we can take and how we can use it and how it can be shared with third parties, that's an instant for me. that if you're taking that information, even if it's just extra, like I don't really think you need to give a social security number in order to get a car insurance, as much as other carriers would disagree. I don't think that that's needed. I think you need your driver's license because you're going to pull that. But I might easily want their, business identity number so that I could say who they are and make sure that they are actually a business who is licensed and I can find them and look them up. I also like to think of the amounts, like having those conversations. Like if someone's a solopreneur, like how do you know what you want in your cyber limits? And so I like to look at credit monitoring cost an average, and this is where I got that thing of $150 to $250 per record. So if you lost 100 people, their information within our systems, Amy, you're talking about $150,000 out of the pocket, right? I don't know about you, and it's required. There are requirements legally of what we have to do for someone who we have put their information at risk. I think it's really important too, that even if someone doesn't think that they will have a risk, they're too small. I think it's so important to have a plan and to have a cyber policy of how you're going to detail that. And in fact, I really think if you're getting a standalone cyber program, that underwriters should require that you give that cyber plan to them. I know that personally, we have a cyber policy on how we open emails, that we want to take advantage of multi-factor authentication, that we want to train our team. Like we have conversations about phishing, and we've even bought a third party who goes in there and is on all of our computers to make sure that we have done all the updates. I can't tell you how many times just on my regular home computer, I can look at the corner and it's telling me pleading with me to reboot it because there are things that have been out there for months and I haven't rebooted it. I've been on the same thing, and that's all an exposure risk. So we have something in our business that actually monitors that and lets me know if someone hasn't updated what they're supposed to update, and gives them a, hey, you need to get this updated because this is going to protect you. We back up and make sure that that backup is encrypted and that it's stored offline for the information that we are going to keep. But like I said, I like to keep everything on the computer. I do not want folks writing, and I've made this a really big deal. Do not write down someone's account number or credit card number on a piece of paper to charge it later. Only do that payment if you actually have them on the phone and all you're doing is helping them put it in, or get them and be on the phone with them and let them get to that third party and put in the payment. I don't need the hassle of having someone's numbers. I can tell you a bad story about me. So I was putting in billing information from my boss, and I was buying something like buying lunch for the whole group or something. And for some reason, when I was getting through, I saved her credit card information in my system. Well, when I went to go buy something on like one of the things, yes, I probably fell for a TikTok ad. I can't tell you what it was, but something. And I went in there and paid for it. Her numbers, the last four, you know how it'll show you the last four, look very similar to mine. And it didn't require me to put in the security code at that time. Now I have it set so that it always requires me to put in, the security code. But she bought me some very nice things. So embarrassing when she had to come back to me. And that was done just in error, and it was just me having that number. And even when I'm helping someone make a payment, automatically some of my information will come up because it's set up on some of these so that I can go in and do a quick purchase, whether I'm paying for leads or, paying my bill with Canopy Connect. When I go in there, I have my business card set up there, and I have to be careful about making sure that the stuff that pops up doesn't end up paying for my insurance policy.
Yeah, I think more often than not, and I know I used to years ago before I was in insurance, I used to get so annoyed when at work you would get those phishing emails, but they were the fake phishing emails that your company was sending and like they were trying to trick. I used to get so annoyed because I'm like, why are they doing this? But now from an insurance perspective, like I can really appreciate that training mentality that you send it in the point of you're trying to train your staff what to click and what not to click. And if they do click something and mistake, it's just you in a training exercise versus somebody else who could be a bad actor. So I definitely think they're a good thing, but boy, man, they drove me batty for the longest time. I was like, this is the dumbest thing. Why are we doing these?
I know. And it was embarrassing to get and one company I worked for, if you failed the test, you had to go through and take the whole phishing, protect yourself from phishing policy every time. And we actually had a guy in our group that had to take it like 10 times in like 4 months. There are some tools that are out there that can reward you for that due diligence of making sure that you're setting up your small business so that it's not open, or your large business. There's tools like it's called No B4, and that is phishing test where you can send phishing tests to yourselves and help you with that. There are things like CrowdStrike and Sentinel-1 that help with different things. They're encrypted offsite backups where you can go in and help you and teach you how to do this. And there is cyber hygiene training for every employee, so that you make sure that every year you're hitting on this, especially as complicated as with AI and these things are happening. As easy as they make our lives, how easy are they making the criminal lives? And not only that, what are we responsible for on that third party page?
Yeah.
We're warned again and again, when you go to the airport, when you go to the hotel, don't use their Wi-Fi unless you are like VPNing into work or someplace that's, private. And there's directions on that. And I can tell you, not always the best at doing that when I have to get something done right away and my VPN is working snail's pace. Um,
I'm bad about it. I'm like, I'll be real quick. It'll be okay. And I know the risks. And here I am connecting to, the Mexican restaurant's Wi-Fi because I'm really quick. I want to shoot out a certificate or something. And I'm like, okay, if I'm really fast, nothing bad's going to happen. And that's not how it works. Like, so I I do it too. I think we all do it. I think we all like ignore the risks, especially when it comes to like the cyber and the identity theft, because we are so technically driven these days. Like, you can't do anything without technology. And I mean, the other day I went to get gas in the car, and because the internet was down at the gas station, you literally couldn't get gas because they couldn't take a payment. They couldn't, the gas pumps weren't connecting. So they were going around sending everybody away. And I'm like, good Lord, we can't even get a gallon of gas. I'm like, I have cash. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. The gas pump is connected via Wi-Fi, so we know how much is in the tankard, and so right now it's just not working. I'm like, oh, good Lord.
Yeah, no, I went to a doctor's office last week, and it all corresponded with the awful latency when you were trying to get on the internet, and the garbage that was coming in. I couldn't even hold the call over my regular Teams phone calls because it was like skipping every other word. But I get over to my doctor's office, and at the end I'm going to pay, and they're like, yeah, write down all your credit card information on this piece of paper. And I'm like, do I want to do that? um it's kind of scary,
It is. But I do know some of these really good carriers that are offering the standalone cyber have started building in some of the training and preventative things. Like they'll help you write your cyber policy. They will give you phishing training. They will give your staff this. They'll do all of these things as, preventatives in order to help you not have a cyber attack or a phishing issue or anything. So the fact that they're kind of building in those things that for the longest time you had to go to another vendor and pay extra on top of whatever coverage you get is kind of nice because you don't see a lot of carriers adding features in. They're like stripping away, some extras, or if you get those extras, you're paying for them. And that's not seems to be the case with these standalone cyber policies, which I kind of like.
I do like it too. And I like the thought of it. I know I was hopped on one, and you could actually go through and it would help you create your cyber policy
Mhm.
just by asking you certain questions. But I like the fact that it met you where you're at. Like if you're not doing this, it would go through and tell you if you're not doing multi authentication, you're leaving yourself open for this. And this is not, this is a mitigation that shouldn't be a yes or no. It shouldn't be how quickly you can log into a website. It should be how secure that website is if you're putting in customers' information. And the training, I just had a CE training on cyber policy from one of our carriers, where it was actually done by a lawyer who went through and told us everything that she's sort of encountering on the cyber side. One of the interesting topics that she brought up um, was no, this is someone who was in there, but they talked about if you could, as a single person, get cyber coverage. Now, think about it. That's a little different than identity theft when something happens to you, but how many people would be held accountable for their coverage? Like you were telling me that you hold your own E&O besides what you hold for the agency. Is that something you'd want to cover if you were out and about, dealing with information that could be shared and needed to be taken care of? I think that's an interesting topic in and of itself.
I think there are some programs that are built that are still touted as like identity theft programs, but are built out that work almost like a cyber. Um, because I know the one I'm using right now, and I carry for both me and my husband, no matter how many times he forgets, but I carry it because I'm bad about, seeing that, short on YouTube and I'm like, "Ooh, check that out." And I click on it and then I'm like, "Oh God, where did this take me?" And immediately my mind goes to they're gonna get my information. And lo and behold, knock on wood here, I haven't had anything happen to me, but my husband has multiple times and he is like constantly talking about how he's careful about where he puts his info, but yet his info still gets stolen. So the one I have,
I won't go where
covers.
I want to go. and tell them to stay off this sort of thing.
I know. Like, I don't know what's going on, dude. So,
What sites are you going to that are different than the sites that I'm going to? No.
yeah, his money is going to car parts from Japan. So,
Oh, there you go.
yes.
That's
So,
it. Jim's rebuilding the truck, and he's been going to all these things because he needs to get new shocks for the Jeep, and it has been truly scary, he says, where you jump into these and they lead you down all sorts of paths just trying to find certain parts.
oh, I know, especially his car literally is from Japan and it's been imported and it's right-hand drive and trying to find parts for this vehicle. I literally could probably find Jimmy Hoffa sometimes. Like, it is ridiculous. So I totally am making sure we carry this identity coverage because it covers like up to $1 million. It covers legal fees. It covers restoration services. So it's built kind of like a business cyber plan, but just for, your family or for an individual. Um, so I think there are plans out there. There are ones I've seen terrible identity theft programs for individuals too. They're like, it's identity theft protection, but we're not going to cover bank transfers. And it's identity theft protection, but we're not going to cover your computer if somebody hacks it. And so, like, it has all these exclusions. So I think you just kind of have to do your due diligence.
Well, and I told you on those home policies, I always love that they tell you you have $25,000 for this $30 you're paying for the year, but the only thing that it pays is your court cost. Hello, what about the car that they bought under your name? It doesn't pay for that.
Mhm.
So that can get really scary if you don't have enough coverage. But back to cyber policy, I do want to say that as far as things that aren't put down, I will tell you, I do a lot in the volunteer realm. I did Girl Scouts with my girls. I did mission trips at my church. I did church camp and those sort of things. And we do all sorts of things to make sure that people are safe, and requirements to make sure that we have background checks on people and those kind of things. But we have people when they are going out of town on mission trip who take every piece of information on that child and their parents in a folder with them. And, it has their history, their, medical history so that you can take them. It has a release so you can go in there and get things done. It has a copy of their health card and all the nuances, all their medications and everything. That's a scary thing to think that is out in the world. And so I was always pretty diligent about making sure that I shred those as soon as we get back and collected them. But my volunteers could have taken pictures of them because they didn't want to mess with, carrying those around. And I didn't have a policy in place. Mind you, this is, early 2000s, 2010s, but it's kind of scary when you think about what we were walking around with and didn't have protected. So I think we need to remember, especially if anyone's watching us from one of those volunteer options, how are you securing the information you've been entrusted with?
Have you seen the people who sit and work at Starbucks and then get up and walk away from their laptop? I I almost just like to sit and people watch that. Like, you'll go in and there'll be 5 people working because, they travel to places all through their day. So they, find a Starbucks and they work for a little bit. I have seen time after time grown people, grown corporate America people, full suits. They've got to be having some sort of proprietary information, will literally leave their laptop open, unlocked, get up and go to the bathroom for 10 minutes.
Or trust the person who they've been traveling with, who's a perfect stranger and they ended up sitting next to each other for 2 hours waiting for the phone. I'll watch your stuff.
Yeah,
Scary.
it is. To me, cyber insurance has almost become, because of how technological we are as a society, has become one of those things that kind of like we're required to carry E&O, like in order to do business. It is a factor. We have to have it. Like otherwise carriers won't work with us. We can't function. I almost feel like cyber, when you are dealing with any part of people's information, that should be a requirement now. You should have to be required to carry cyber insurance. And I think we might see that in maybe a couple of years. A few more, few more breaches, a few more issues, and lawmakers are going to kind of get tired of hearing people complain. People are going to get tired and start complaining more. And we'll see it. We'll see where they come out and be like, you're now required, if you are a business owner and you deal with people's information, to carry cyber coverage.
Or required CEs, as part of being a license, any type of license, that you have to know how to do this. Or if you have access to a payment system, that you understand what that access means and where you're vulnerable. Have you ever bought something really expensive and then realized you did not understand what you bought at all? And this is actually part of one of my LinkedIn links. I mean,
Yeah.
that's no cyber insurance. People don't know. You're talking about the too small. Well, they don't understand what they get and what they're buying. And that's why it's just a price. And again, it goes into a point that you've always made on these podcasts, is we're there to educate and teach. And so, for instance, we talked about forensics. You get a specialist who find the breach. No guessing, no blaming, Bob from accounting, because he's always, with his computer and he opens every email, or Jane, she's over 60, so she must be the one opening it. Also the ransomware and negotiation and payment handling. You don't have to worry about that. So they're going to handle the payment and take care of that. So you do not have to worry about it at all. Breach notification and legal counsel. You're required to notify your clients if their information has been compromised. I mean, it's perfect to get sued because you've led their information out there. They do the notification and they make sure that you're taken care of. And again, business interruption and data recovery to make sure you get your information back. And finally, reputation repair, where someone, PR, can help you rebuild your brand, because there's nothing that can take you down faster than being a place you're not a trusted advisor anymore. If you can't be trusted with the information that they're willing to share with you.
Yeah. That is definitely
Anyway,
true.
so this has been another great podcast for Policy and Sass. And I'm really happy you get to choose the next topic. Do you have any ideas?
I'm gonna noodle that around for a minute because there are so many.
I know I had a hard time picking this one.
I know you
There's so
kept
many
changing
things
it. I kept laughing every time you would message, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay. And then I'd start to look into it and they're like, I want to do this. And I'm like,
Well, thank you so much and have a good day, everybody.
bye.